Hey guys, Mojismo Eugene. Welcome to another video from Exit Strategy. Please like, subscribe, share, and give a thumbs up for this video if you found it helpful, and pass it along if you think someone else would benefit from it. I'd appreciate that. Let's talk about awakened empaths, how we make narcissist insecurities rise to the top, how we make them expose themselves, the insecurities of the narcissist. You have to understand, in 2025, there is rarely anywhere a narcissist can go without hearing the word narcissist. And you're hearing it in mainstream occasionally, even though it's very watered down. A lot of society wants to keep a lid on this because why? A big amount of society are dealing with this disorder. And the ones who aren't dealing with it, they find themselves with overwhelming amounts of narcissism because of who they're keeping company with. You know, when I told you way back, and I continue to tell you, a narcissist actually trains good meaning, well-meaning people, even some empaths, a lot of empaths, they are training us on how to do all things bad, be all things bad. In essence, they are training us in narcissistic personality disorder. Although we're not disordered, they are training us by the behavior, because a lot of narcissists are in positions of authority. And we know now, looking back at the matrix that we were all in before we awakened out of that sleep, that we were going along, getting along to go along to get along. You know, when that company had an annual walkthrough or big wigs were coming through, you would notice, this is pre-awakening empaths, follow me. You would have the majority of that company on pins and needles, running around with their insecurities and fears of wanting to make sure everything was clean, everything was tidy, at least for that moment of them walking through. Then all hell breaks loose again. You can go back to just being lackluster. And you, out of everybody else, would look around and say, I'm just going to keep working like I normally work. I don't see what the pandemonium is all about. And dare you utter that security in yourself to someone that's insecure, they would ostracize you either within themselves, or they will run around and say, I can't believe we got this walkthrough and they're just running around acting like they don't even care. You would be deemed the one that doesn't care. No, you care. You care about continually, consistently doing your job. You're not going to be doing any cartwheels, backflips, break dancing because the regional manager is coming through. But that is a matrix type of mindset, and you'll have that manager breeding pandemonium within his crew or his employees. So follow me well when I say this. We all have experienced this in the workplace. And even before you awakened, this was pre-awakening, you still didn't do cartwheels for this BS. You were that one that stuck out like a sore thumb. You know why? Because you had security within yourself. You had security within your abilities to do something. And while most people didn't, you didn't see what all the buzz was about. All you knew was, okay, I get it. We need to be conscious that we have people of influence walking through. We do want to show that we are a company that are doing exactly what these big wigs are paying for. Okay, I get that part. But going to the extreme, empaths, we don't do that. We're not mediocre, but we don't go over and beyond just because of some kind of special occasion. We were people pleasers, though. In our consistency and our securities, we did sometimes go beyond what was required, but never got credit for it. We were stroked on the shoulder. Our ego was stroked for the moment. And then no sooner as you did that good thing, you did one small bad thing. You could have probably did a whole year worth of good things at that company, but let you do one thing, be it very petty most of the time, that narcissist will call you in their office and make you feel like you're interrogated for a murder. And this is why, and this is because looking back now, you know that this narcissist was running low on fuel or energy or supply. And so what they had to do was top off with fuel, and they were using you to empath because you resonated. You always had a consistent flow. You always had fuel on tap. And so what they would do was pick you out. Okay, they need a piñata to knock some candy out of. So they call you in the office. So this is how the dynamics of how when you're awakened, now you are awakened, when you walk in a place of business, you walk into your job, you walk into the hardware store, you walk into a Walmart and strike a conversation up with somebody in a cordial fashion that happens to know you, you will find that these narcissists will be drawn to you almost like a magnet. Whether they're employees of that store, whether there are people shopping around in that store, you will sense and see that there will be one or two people flocking to get close to you, because what they want to do is hear your conversation. You know why? Because you're standing there in your essence, in your aura, because you have security in the way that you walk, in the way that you move, in the way that you talk, the way that you move your head, the way that you're not rubbernecking. A narcissist, when they're forming a conversation like this same situation, let's say a narcissist walk in and they're having a cordial conversation with this person in that store that they're acquainted with. They won't have these attractions. People won't be drawn to them because of just their aura, because of the way that they're moving. You know why people would draw attention? They would draw attention to themselves by the fact that they're talking extra loud. They're looking around as they're talking, as to say, look, listen to what I'm talking about. They will be very, very loud, very, very obnoxious. And they will unction everyone into their conversation. They have no filters. The volume is like mid to high range. But an empath, just walking into this place, say hardware store, you walk up to an associate who you probably know. I've had this happen to me many times. This individual, I've known him since before he got hired at this particular hardware store. And occasionally, I don't see him every time I go in there. He works in a capacity where, I don't see him that often. But when I do, I give him, a brotherly handshake, give him a little hug like that. And he is actually one of few people that I've given my channel to because, in my spirit, something just drew me to this individual. And some of you empaths out there, you probably have that one person that you can pretty much talk, not openly about all of this information, this newfound wealth of knowledge about narcissists, because we never load any one person up with this. Other than this platform, we are inconspicuous. We walk in anonymity when we are out and about. But people know that we know something that is uniquely different than what they know. It's the way that we move. We moved differently before we awakened, but now even more so. We are drawn back. We are hesitant. We are more in our movement. They can see that we are very, very thorough. And so back to this hardware store situation, I walk up and cordially communicate with this individual. And in no time than not, I will have 2 or 3 associates drawn to this individual. No, not him. They drawn to this conversation because what they're trying to do is get close to this conversation. They are trying to sponge off of this conversation because they need to know a couple of things. Why does these two, me and this individual, have this interaction? What is our business? What are we talking about? Because not only am I poised, he's poised. We're having a gentleman to gentleman conversation. But it's unlike most conversations that many people will see other people having. And this attracts narcissists. This appeals to narcissists. You've heard us say before, they know, just like we know from a distance, from afar, we can almost detect narcissists. They can detect empaths. They can detect our aura. They can detect the light. They can detect the fuel that we give off. So when they get closer. If they're not certain, they need to get closer to get more intel. And there's a couple other reasons they get closer to hear exactly what's being said so they can carry that on to use that in their arsenals, because they're trying to smear you from the get-go. Anything that a narcissist can garner as it concerns your personal life, or anything from where you're going from that point to point B, they need to go on to talk to somebody else about it. In this situation with this associate, I guarantee you, when me and him commence conversating, I'm sure this particular manager or lead person who's over them, they're constantly on their walkie-talkie, talking and pretending to be important. And lo and behold, 2 or 3 associates may call this individual. This has happened occasionally, but it's happened consistently every time this individual lead person is within these capacities. And me and this gentleman are talking or having a small talk conversation. This normally doesn't last for probably a minute, maybe 2. But in that minute or 2, there's a lot of things that are taking place. And some of you all are experiencing this right now in capacities in which you frequent. It could be in a gas station. It can be in a park, anywhere that you might meet somebody's acquaintance that you're familiar with. You'll find somebody will come up out of the blue in the park and will ask you, do you guys know where? They'll ask you all kind of asinine questions, like you work at the park, like you're a park ranger or something. They are just intrusive people, guys. They're very intrusive. And what they're seeking to do is to agitate you and throw you off of your game. They want to throw you off of your vibration. Like I say, there's multiple reasons. They need fuel. They need intel. They're trying to throw you off of your vibration. They need to know what connection you and that person has. Put it this way, they are busybodies. They don't have a life of their own. They need you in order to understand how this thing called life works. Without you, they're doomed. You know this. And again, I'm spotlighting on some of these very insidious, seemingly petty, trivial situations and circumstances. Why? Because even though you're awakened and you are aware, this can be debilitating to you as an awakened empath, because you being awakened and aware, and you might be living your best life. You're going on about your business. You're vibrating high. You have this awareness, this newfound awakened insight of who these people are and how they move. But these small, insidious circumstances and situations are some of which may catch you off guard. That is why I want to spotlight this type of stuff. And the way that a narcissist's insecurities are being brought to the top, they rise to the surface, is just this. In your stance, in your stoic presence in nature, just you showing up and being very silent and poised, and them not knowing what you're talking about, you're keeping your volume at a minimum. Only person you're allowing to hear what you're saying is that person you're talking to. If you look around and observe, you will find that in times past, these same people that have always found themselves in your circle, you're very in tune now. You know why they're around you. You know why they are encamping around you, because they need to know. They need to be in the know all the time. If they don't know, what's going on from one minute to the next. This is when their insecurities rise to the top. You'll see them moving around, fidgeting. They cannot be still. And when you look over and you just kind of like almost like, yeah, I see what you're doing. That's what you're saying with that look. That's what you're saying with your poised, stoic gesture when you look around. It's kind of like they move around, stumbling, getting as close as they can to you, almost in your face. And they don't realize you can see them from 10 foot off out of your peripheral, that they just cannot stay away from what is going on, the interaction. And when you kindly, politely look that way, it spooks them. Because you're not supposed to be that in tune. You're not supposed to be that aware. Because most people, they're able to get in and get close and get around them to siphon, because their ears are just like that. Their ears are just always like freaking, what do you call, satellite dishes. They are constantly trying to take in every single thing that is vocally being spoken. Because if it wasn't for them being able to hear what is actually being said, they wouldn't really have no idea of why they would be doing what they're doing. They could mimic your movements, seeing you do something, and they can copy that. But a lot of the times this needs to make sense. And so they will siphon your verbiage. They will siphon your conversation, because they need to have as much of this conversation as they possibly can, because they need to put this in their arsenal, because they'll go on, and if they hear a whole story, they will take that story and they will make it their own. And they will go on a dinner date. They will go to a friend's house, and that conversation that they overheard you making with someone else, that will become their conversation. And they'll use it in a sense like, yeah, I was talking to this guy today, when they were nowhere in that conversation, but they were. How do I know this? Because I know how narcissists move. This is when you become very in tune. You have no doubts about what you're seeing and what you're observing. It makes perfect sense. Nothing becomes nonsense anymore. That being said, bless.